Good morning. I'm Tamara Shoemaker. This morning I went another verse or two into the book of James, which I was telling some friends if I am going to spend a verse or two each time I do one of these in the book of James, which isn't that long of a book. I'm going to be here all year, but we'll see how it works. So one of my favorite movies, and it's one I haven't seen in several years until just recently I borrowed it again and watched it with my kids, but it's a movie called Quovatus, and it was put out in 1951 by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and it stars Robert Taylor and Deborah Kerr as the primary love interest, and my favorite, Peter Ustinov, who is the Emperor Nero. So the movie runs for almost 3 hours. It's a long movie. It's set in ancient Rome during Nero's glory days, just before he decides it's going to be a great idea to burn the city of Rome. Along with the Caesarean story of the Roman Senate and the power struggles sort of inherent in that, there's this contrasting story in the movie of underground Christianity, of the despised group of people who put their faith in some guy who had been crucified outside the city of Jerusalem 30 years earlier. So when Rome burns, the enraged people who were caught and trapped in the city while it was burning, they escape the city and they want a scapegoat. And so they come and demand the scapegoat. And Nero gives the story that the Christians are the incendiaries of the city, the arsonists. So thus begins the entertainment of the Circus Maximus, the Colosseum, and the crowds who gather to watch the spectacle of hundreds of Christians being herded onto the arena floor just before the hungry lions are released. As an older movie, there's not much in it that's really, gruesome or graphic, but it's based around the factual historical details of many parts of the story, like the burning of Rome and the persecution of the Christians being fed to the lions, some of them being burned at the stake and so forth. Again, no gruesome parts, but those things still happened. So the story wrenches really deeply. It's an immersive story, and each time that I've watched it, I hear the same question sort of form in my mind. Would my faith stand in circumstances like that? In that situation, would I be able to say, yes, Lord, let me go through with this? One of the key moments in the movie that never fails to give me chills is when the first group of Christians is herded onto the arena floor. And they're terrified and they're weeping, and the crowd is deafening, and it's just really overwhelming. And the lions are at their gates, and you can hear them roaring, and they're hungry and pacing. So in the storyline of the movie, Peter, the same one who gets out of the boat and walks on the water towards Christ, he's much older now in the movie, and he appears in the crowd, and he raises his hands, and silence falls, and he speaks these words of encouragement to the Christians. Nero gives the order for his arrest. 2 guards grab him, and he gets dragged off the stage. But his encouragement has done its work. The Christians, instead of weeping, they're now singing. They start to sing, and the sound grows and it swells as more and more Christians join in. And then the entire arena is full of the praise and worship of those who are about to meet Jesus face to face. And the crowd, who's been screaming for blood this whole time, and they're just bewildered. They don't know what to do. Nobody can understand this. Why aren't the Christians terrified? And the attitude of the change, it takes all the fun out of it, right? Nero's angry and he's confused and he's curious, and he gives the order that the arena not be cleared at the end of the day, before he has a chance to inspect the lions' leavings. And then they release the lions. So later that night, Nero returns with some of his soldiers, and he looks over the bodies left over. Again, there's nothing grotesque that's shown, but as he looks at body after body, his bewilderment and his confusion grows because each one is smiling. What on earth would cause them to smile? I submit that it's nothing on earth. It's the one who is in heaven, as each one steps through the veil into the glorious presence of the one who meets them face to face, takes them by the hand. He says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Come and enter into your reward." So James 1, verses 2 through 8 is a very familiar passage to me. It's one I've got memorized. It's underlined in my Bible. I've got little notes in the margins, and I turn to it really often. Even so, the Holy Spirit did his work in my heart this morning as I read the words again. I'm going to read it here. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. I think that James should have been a meat packer, right? This paragraph, this whole book, is just packed with meaty portions of protein. And I was going to try to get through the first chapter today, and then I realized, nope, there's no way. There's just too much to study and think about. So I was going to divide the chapter in half at the section break. And then again, I decided I can't. There's just too much in this first half of the chapter. So I decided I was going to stick with the first paragraph, which in itself is still a main course feast, right? So James starts his letter with a gut punch. He's writing specifically to Jewish Christians who are scattered throughout the nations, many of whom are already and still undergoing martyrdom, similar to what is happening in the movie that I talked about earlier. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds. That's what he starts out with. And I'm not sure if I've ever faced a trial with pure joy, thinking about it. I faced trials with grudging glances heavenward. I'm like, really, God, do I have to do this? I faced trials with tears and with pain. I faced trials with doubt and with anger. I faced trials with fear, lots of fear. That's my biggest pitfall. And boy, does the enemy know it. He plays on my fears constantly, all the time. It's a continual battle, and it's probably one I will always fight for the rest of my life. Fear is a big pitfall for me. But I don't know if I've ever faced trials with pure joy. James isn't asking for a masochistic joy in our suffering, right? Like, oh, please bring it on, bring it on. I'm so excited to experience this. He gives the reason for the joy in the next clause of the sentence. He says, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Why is perseverance important? Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So as I consider the word complete, I see in my mind like a line of fire that slowly moves as it forms a circle, a ring. And there's no entrance and there's no exit to the ring. There's no starting point and there's no ending point. There's only the eternal circle, right? Nothing can get into the circle. Nothing can get out from the center of the circle. It's done. It's perfect. It's complete. It's finished. It's lacking nothing. Unless, if that ring remains open, if it's not complete, doubt can creep in, right? Doubt weakens resolve. It weakens faith. So remember when Peter stepped out of the boat, his circle of fire was maybe nearly complete. He's seen what Jesus does, right? He's been with him every step of the way, miracle by miracle by miracle. He's watched it all happen. Bit by bit, that circle has been forming in his mind as he's been resolving and growing in his faith. So now he sees another miracle. Here's Jesus. He's standing off the port bow of his boat, and he's telling Peter, come. So step by careful step over the deep water, Peter walks towards Jesus, and he perseveres until he doesn't. The waves and the wind, they get to him. The realization of what is happening breaks his attention from the Lord to whom he is walking, and he starts to sink. What does Jesus say to him as he catches him? "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" James says if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. That's a promise. Wisdom will be given to him, but the promise is conditional. When he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. So back to Peter on the boat, or on the water. The waves of the sea that are blown and tossed by the wind are really, 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 really evident. They're imposing on the walk that he's making towards Jesus. They're overshadowing his vision. They may even be obstructing his gaze, right? They're making themselves super obvious. Faith isn't easy to hold on to, is it? It's not something that you wake up with every day and you say, or one morning and you say, hey, I think I'm going to have faith today. I think it's going to be easy to believe today. Faith is the watery path between Peter and Jesus. Faith is the struggle between the doubt and the assurance. Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the substance, that is, it is the tangibility, that means you can touch it, of things hoped for. The hoped for things are not yet within your grasp. There's that pathway between. It's the evidence is concrete proof of things not seen, which are not proven yet. It's that bridge between the two. My mind's blown. In other words, those Christians on the floor of the arena in Rome had faith, concrete proof in Jesus, right? The wind and the waves were large and looming for them, but their eyes were fixed in the struggle, in the middle of the struggle, unswervingly on Jesus. Faith put them in the arena. Faith finished its perfect circle of fire as they stepped out of this life into heaven to be with Jesus. According to the movie, they died smiling past the lions. So we might not have to face the sharp end of a lion today, right? Most of us have undergone trials at some point. This last year alone has introduced and metastasized trials of sickness and fear and pain and hatred and division and unbelief and dismemberment within the body of Christ, disunity, on and on and on and on it goes. How do we meet those trials? Do we smile in pure joy? Quovatus is the name of the movie, and it is a Latin phrase for whither goest thou, or in more modern English, it is where are you going? In the movie, the Lord speaks to Peter, and he tells him, I want you to go to Rome because the people there need you. And Peter doesn't understand at first what the Lord is asking. He says, Quovatus Domine, where are you going, Lord? So here's the crux of the matter. Faith doesn't allow us to see where we are going. But the whole point of faith is this. We see who we are going with. We don't see where we're going, but we see who we're going with. Hand in hand, step by step, eyes on him. With pure joy. That's exciting. All right. I hope you guys have a good day.